Stephen Leishman with the pull again, sends it very high. They'll be happy with that one. Going deep into the end zone, a lot of hang time, fielded by Patterson.
Lee Yo looking to be the first reception, but he was closed off by the aggressive chase from Brightside, so we've got Waller instead.
Yo always able to get open, but unfortunately has thrown to Callahan, and Brightside will be absolutely thrilled with that.
What a pick-off score, just a fantastic defensive read. Groot, as we see Peter Bordsworth with the disc, pushing to Patterson on the far sideline.
We've seen Groot be very dangerous on these transitions, and once again, they are able to take that defensive turnover and quickly turn it into a point.
O'Hara and Dempster doing some great give-go work to eat up yards. A crossfield hammer! He's gonna do it!
Pulls out the hammer this late in the game, shows a lot of confidence. And making his defender do the work to actually cover him.
Patterson.
And we have seen it. We have seen it. Lee Yo with the final throw to Patterson. Groot has taken the game.
So nice. Sends it down the line to Rollman. They're hugging the sideline. Sometimes dangerous, but oh, big layout!
What a play!
Massive.
I was so loving that point.
Great fluid movement from Judd. Back to Parsons, back to Judd.
Nice
oh, she knows that pocket's there for her. Oh, sends it over the top. Otara.
Yes!
O'Connor.
Oh my gosh.
The vision.
Ugh. What execution. Such a great throw.
Moving to Aston.
Nice.
Back to Parsons. Oh, Connor's calling for it. Parsons says yes.
A break side huck.
Oh, huge! Huge versus Charlesworth.
Huge
Massive.
take. I love that. I also love Parsons with the break.
That wind up.
Great energy from both teams. Such strong defensive pressure from Nexus.
Huge layout from Charlesworth.
Okay, Charlesworth. Charlesworth looking for options.
She's aggressive and never afraid to go to ground to get a disc.
Such separation from
Windorf
Windorf.
sends it. Surely Laylee Bender with absolutely on a plate. No stress. It's got gravy on it.
And now the crossfield blade. It's a perfectly paced throw and an amazing grab by the Hammertron player. Disc going long with a great read and a great leap by Sam Teo Linarts. Throws and catches look very casual. That's what you want as an offense.
Oh, lovely up line cut there.
And a huge hammer goes across the field.
Oh, lovely catch. Justin Lee did a good job there.
And a big throw goes up to Lucas Wilcock, one of their favorite receivers. Let's see what happens.
Oh,
he gets a big
huge
and absolutely roofs his defender.
Oh.
That's what Hammertron needed.
Hogan picking up, looking downfield.
Nice breakthrough.
Rivlin, Carter, looking down.
Yes.
Oh, she sends a big inside out. That's gonna float for days. Oh,
What a
that's so
treat
nice.
to receive a throw like that in the end zone. I love that. It's just a little gift. It's wrapped up with a little bow.
Looking back for Smith that gets tail in arts. Coming wide. Oh, Hogan with a sniff.
Incredible
She was
pressure
close.
there. Macaulay Scott finding the break
Sends
side.
it. Carter's looking downfield. Oh, and a hammer.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you.
Oh my gosh, too easy. That was beautiful.
And a beautiful reception from Big B.
Douglas engaging options, finding Sanders again. Nice swing past the hold away.
Oh, look at that.
Back. Oh my goodness, my heart. What a beautiful put.
EJ Holdaway, no stranger to those really low release.
ULTI.TV.
No my, hi there my folks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third day of the streamed coverage of our 2024 New Zealand Ultimate Championships Division 1 here at Eurodiscs Park in Wellington. We have a very exciting semi-final match for you. All of our divisions, so both of our divisions have made it through to the top four. Here we have Wildcats from Wellington facing off against Brightside from Christchurch. Elsewhere at Eurodiscs Park, we are going to see Dogma facing off against Groot from Auckland. In our women's division, we have Misfits from Auckland, the Fast Blueberries from Auckland, Hamatron Mahuika from Hamilton, and Nexus from Wellington as well. So, a lot of pressure in terms of those our hometown heroes being able to come through and push for the finals. But the match in front of us is going to be Wellington Wildcats versus Brightside. My name, as always, is Blair Munro. I'm joined by some very special guests here in the booth.
Austin Clark.
And Nick Panu.
And it's just going to be a very, very exciting match here. Now, Austin and Nick, you guys did some great work together in the commentary booth yesterday, talking through our folks at home. Through some of the very best Ultimate that we've seen in a while here in Wellington. Based solely on your understanding of these teams, on how the tournament's shaping up, what are we expecting to see in this match? I'm not asking you to make calls about who's going to win, who's going to lose, but just in terms of the respective play styles of the teams, what kind of dynamism are we about to see?
Well, I've had some chats with players on both sides. The one factor here is that there is absolutely no win. This is perfect ultimate playing conditions. And that is affecting the way the games are played. With the quality of Frisbee we have out here, the quality of ultimate, we expect a very clean game. I know the Wildcats are going into this expecting they have to score all of their offensive points. If they do not, this game gets very, very exciting, and exciting in a way that they don't want it to be. The same thing happens with Brightside. They know that their shots can come off, and they're very good at putting up long shots. They've got some very speedy receivers. They'll be looking to play that way through the game. Wildcats will expect to be playing a little bit more clinical and clean. They've got a very experienced offensive line, very experienced players who can play together. They've hopefully gelled and got themselves sorted out for this game, as they've had some ups and downs through the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, and just to piggyback off that, it's one of the things that we saw previously when we've seen Brightside on display, we've seen Dogma quite often. There's a lot of aggressive offense, and it comes off really cleanly, but we are seeing those points just be traded backwards and forwards. Now, we're looking at a race to 15 here. The first team to score 15 points is going to be the one who walks away with it, unless we hit our 90-minute soft cap. And if all we see is offensive holds, if we don't see that defense really fire up and generate those turnovers and convert them, then we're going to find ourselves on not a lackluster match, but borderline predetermined by the flip. So defense is going to be the key here today.
Absolutely. In these kinds of conditions, it's always tough to generate defensive turnovers. But Brightside have shown throughout the weekend that they have the intensity on defense and they have the athleticism to pull off some huge plays, laying their bodies on the line and coming up with some 50-50 balls that, it takes the intensity to win those. So,
I mean, and not to mention as well, Ty Lawson got out streamed Callahan yesterday with just a great pick-off defense. But we're going to see Jackson Joe come out on offense with Joe Penaya for the Wildcats.
Yep, and Joe Penaya is a stalwart handler for the Wildcats, sending it downfield to Nick Whitlock, who's a weapon on the long shots.
early flood play there from the Wildcats. Well defended by Brightside. They weren't able to get the initial look to Liam Haberfield. They wanted to get him on the disc, and he's a massive weapon with the disc.
He is forced to take the under, and Wildcats not maybe taking that first deep look that they're hoping for to get the momentum going, but always comfortable to move it in their handler space.
Some really nice, just patient disc work. We're not, I mean, with some of the handlers that we've got on this Wildcats side, they have some absolute cannons. I mean, Nick Whitlock, Haberfield, some amazing hucksters here for the Wellington side. But
Andy Fitzpatrick sends the disc long for a huge receiver in Nick Whitlock, who comes down with it over the heads of two Brightside players.
Yeah, I mean, it really is hard to beat Nick Whitlock in the end zone. So Wildcats going to go up by 1. The lovely Lilac lads out here putting it on the board early. Brightside to come out and answer with an offensive structure of their own.
Just full credit to the Brightside defense on that point. They came out, you want to start the game, you want to be putting pressure on and make the other team feel a bit nervous. And I think the Wildcats looked a little nervous in the way they were playing there. The final look was Andy Fitzpatrick just saying, Nick Whitlock, go to the end zone, you're big. And
Absolutely.
he put a perfect disc out to him.
Yeah, to be fair, he put that disc right where Nick Whitlock would want it. The Brightside defenders, both on the back shoulder there, going to have a really tough time making a play over a player of that altitude.
Now, just a couple of little details there as well, which I really, really like. Whitlock offloading to Panaya, and he was continuing on for the upline, looking for a continuation. That disc instead goes through to Fitzpatrick Cockram. And then Nick Whitlock, just being very, very aware of where the attention of his defender was, managed to catch him just in a moment of unattentiveness and use that to accelerate through. I mean, the defender was pretty close on his shoulder, and Whitlock is pretty quick, but I think the timing of that cut and the awareness was what allowed him to really generate that separation. Great, as you said, great work by Brightside to really focus the defense to prevent those huge gainers quite early on in the piece. But we're going to see what Brightside are able to do when they have the disc in hand. Dempster has the disc now marked by Titov Smith.
Finds a great option into the center of the field. Adam Chung. Leach now with the disc. Looking long. Opts for a reset. O'Hara, Leach. Excellent movement out of Brightside to just calmly work that disc, bouncing it into the middle of the field, out to the edges again, finding those gaps and really forcing Wildcats to tighten up their defense if they're going to find a turnover off this Brightside offense.
Absolutely, and I mean, Nick, you were saying this as well. We're going to see some really clean offense, but you pointed out Brightside know that they can put those shots away themselves. I mean, Scott Edwards in the end zone, to the surprise of very few people who will have been watching our stream so far. He's just done a fantastic job there, really picking things apart in that end zone, getting that opening. Great work by Morgan O'Hara as well to really work that far sideline too. And so we have ourselves a game of holds so far, one of the greatest perils, and it's something that I think, particularly as these teams have come into the top 4, that's what we're really expecting to see, is very precise offense, just not being willing to put up a risky shot that might give the disc over to the opposition. So we're going to see Leishman, who has been just a fantastic performer for the Brightside defensive line here with the disc for the pull.
And coming into this Sunday of a 3-day tournament, the legs are always fatigued, and it really shows on these first few points whether your team is disciplined enough to get to the fields early and warm up to properly show up for these first few points.
Fitzpatrick Cockram has it again. Haberfield disappointed in what's developing in the downfield space.
So disappointed he decides to call a stoppage. It looks like there's some sort of call downfield.
I believe the issue over there is that the sideline spectators are standing a bit too close to the field of play. Haberfield not able to take the option he's looking for due to that. So he's going to have there'll be a discussion over there, and play will resume.
Decides to instead reset through to Panaya, marked by McFarlane. We see Hogg on a great undercut towards the near sideline, getting the disc. Cuts back hard, far side to Whitlock, who winds up the backhand, decides to holster in favor of a little reset through to Tyler Hogg. The defense scrambling a bit to cover.
Nice downfield gainers. Wildcats moving smoothly up the field. And a great shake by Liam Haberfield to get open for his reset. And Haberfield doing a lot of the work and catching the upline throw from Nick Whitlock for their second point of the day.
Following up with a cheeky little hill sprint to make sure he's nice and warmed up in our semi-final match. Wildcats to go up by 1 point now. The score is 2-1 on the third day. Potentially, well, who am I kidding? It is the most important day of our tournament here at Awakarangi Park.
For viewers who don't know, Liam Haberfield played last season in the ADL with the Atlanta Hustle. He was expecting to be in the US right now, to be playing in New York for this season. Unfortunately, he's had some visa issues, which is a fairly common thing when it comes to trying to travel to the US, hence him being here. He is obviously one of the best players in New Zealand, has won that award a few times. Tony Clark there did about as good a job of defense on him as you could possibly expect from a person. Made things difficult, made his life difficult, and that's the kind of expectations things we need from Brightside.
Now, Nick, believe it or not, I was actually at Silverback Stadium, which is the Atlanta Hustle's home stadium, during a game just last year, and it was one of the few games that Haberfield missed. And I was sitting there thinking, man, how cool would it have been to have a bit of New Zealand support there? They had a couple of prop bets on as well, so they were sort of saying, okay, well, is Matt Smith going to end on, over or under 3.5 goals? And I was thinking, if you've got a player like Matt Smith again, just the kind of receivers that we see in Rutan and New Zealand, that just acceleration, the foot speed, Charles Patterson as well, asking them to end a game on less than 3 goals is a bit of a tall order, really. Van Turnhout with the pull for Wildcats. Low to Dempster, far sideline. Van Turnhout closing.
O'Hara with the shake.
Huck.
And there's our first turnover of the game. Huck just being a little bit too hard for Morgan O'Hara, who has some serious wheels, but wasn't able to bring that one in.
Dempster, unfortunately, maybe throwing that flick Huck off the back foot, not really getting enough power into it, not enough shape to guide that disc into the hands of Morgan O'Hara.
And this is going to be those little errors, those little miscommunications that are going to widen the game up. A team like Wildcats are disinclined to give the disc back after this. So we see a big hug coming up from Sheridan, and looking for Kitty, couldn't quite jump it in.
Wildcats now knocking on the door. A big collision in the end zone amongst teammates.
3 Wildcats deciding to go for the same space at the same time. After a bit of a speculative pass there from Tyler Tito-Smith, assuming one of his teammates was going to run onto that.
Just want to remind those folks at home, Ultimate is a non-contact sport.
Yes, in general, non-contact sport, some contact happens, but as always, we try to minimize these things.
So here we're seeing Tyler Titov-Smith throw one of his famous bouncy passes out to the break side of the stack, knowing that his players are going to have the advantage on running onto that. Unfortunately, it's Theo Moore who gets the sharp end of that stick.
I mean, that's the kind of the triple coverage that you really like to see on offense, isn't it? 3 of your players underneath the disc as opposed to 3 of the opposition's. So Wildcats, with the first break of the game, they've managed to claw themselves out a small toe hold. 2-point lead now as they come out on defense yet again.
Now, Sunday morning games are always about energy. You've played 2 days, it's 9 a.m., you're used to a sleep-in on a Sunday. Getting up there, getting their energy onto the field early is really important, and it is really important for Brightside now to lift theirs. Wildcats would love this to be a sleepy game because they know they have the skills to win a sleepy game. Brightside want it to be a noisy game because they know that brings them right back into this.
I mean, that's exactly it. It's one of the things that Brightside have really been able to display throughout the course of the tournament. A huge team energy, keeping it really, really clean. And when they manage to get those gears up, when they manage to get that volume up, they can just really pull some amazing things out as we see O'Hara.
Huge bid.
O'Hara takes a disc out of the hands of a flying Josh Van Bergen.
Decides to holster the Hawk and instead continues to work the disc. Nice few meter gainers at a time. Worden goes up, finds Leach. Adam Chung as the super dump, firing back through to Dominic Lowe.
Wildcats having sent out a younger line of defensive players. They'll be looking to use their legs and place a lot of pressure. The big hammer goes up to Edwards. Leach firing across the stack to the opposite side of the field, spotting his receiver wide open, places a quick hammer across to Edwards.
And I mean, really, that kind of it speaks to what Nick was saying earlier about Wildcats. They're going to be doing a lot of very clean, precise work. Brightside, maybe a little less polished, but compensating for that with sheer energy, with a little bit of creativity, a little bit of daring. I mean, we saw Dempster uncork that shot earlier. It was a little bit low for O'Hara to pick up, but that daringness, I think, is going to serve them really, really well against the extreme sheen and polish of the Wildcats' coat.
The Wildcats were doing some interesting switching on defense there. Full credit to the Brightside for not falling into traps that were there on the field. They kept it moving nicely, took the shots that were available, and yeah, a little bit of creativity for the score, but it was an open shot. It was a good option.
So it's going to be Tony Clark with the pull for Brightside. We once again see Penaya, Hogg, Haberfield, Fitzpatrick Cockram, Joe, Whitlock for the Wildcats side.
I believe the last one there is Ollie Taylor.
Great big pull from Tony Clark for Brightside. Touches down out of bounds. Penaya Smith gives the signal to Brick to bring the disc back to center field to initiate the offense. We're going to see Wildcats setting up in a vertical stack. It's going to be Jackson Joe and Joe Penaya setting things up in the upfield space.
Wildcats do this a lot where they take some of their best downfield throwers and set them up as initial cuts to receive the disc. So you've got Nick Whitlock here looking to receive the disc and immediately shoot it to someone downfield setting up a deep option. There we see it now with Andy Fitzpatrick Cockram, and that's an easy point for the Wildcats.
Absolutely.
Right off a set play.
Just watched it right into his hands. I mean, the sheer body confidence as well. To be looking over your shoulder while continuing a really fast line through the end zone. So great work there by Andy to put that one on the board. It's going to be Wildcats 4 over Brightside 2.
That was a very difficult disc to read. Nick really decided to make things a little bit spicy there. I would say Andy has obviously had some practice at catching those sorts of things from him because he did it beautifully and made it look easy on a throw that's not very easy to catch.
Well, they're not the tame and domestic cats, Nick.
You're quite right.
Lawson trying to take a last-minute swipe at that disc as it was falling into the hands of Fitzpatrick Cockram. Cam Bennett for Brightside taking a knee, trying to just give those 7 players on the line a little bit of guidance here. Van Turnhout with the disc for the pull, supported by Keddy, Jadeja, Sheridan. Aldridge. Moore and Goldby.
The Wildcats will be looking to extend their lead such that they're able to use some of their depth in their roster comfortably, allow those younger players to get a lot of game time and put a lot of their energy into the defensive effort.
Nice pull fielded by Chin. Quick recenter to Dominic Lowe.
A great break throw.
Morgan O'Hara on the near sideline decides to wind up, but Holsters instead finds Dempster in the center field, cutting back around to Adam Chung near sideline.
Great focus out of Brightside here. They're looking really locked in on offense. Quick movements of that disc and using everyone on their team.
Oh, great catch, great take.
A dead static layout to keep that one alive, almost a tumble as much as anything else.
Low fires into the end zone, and Lewis Goldby gets up and gets a touch on it.
And that's what defense is taught to do. Go early. If nothing else, you can throw off the timing of the offensive receiver. I mean, Tavish Dempster, I think he probably went earlier than he would have liked. Maybe could have had a half second to pause under that one or get into a better position. But with Goldby going up, and you never really know how high your defensive counterpart can jump. So a great work there by Goldby to generate that turnover.
Sheridan now bringing the disc in, and a first throw huck to Jack Ketty. It's a really good look, and Jack Ketty bringing that one down happily. He's got streaking options all around, and he finds Theo Moore for a big jump, either towards or into the end zone.
Brightside calling that one in. The majority are anyway.
There's some disagreement amongst the team. Looking forward to seeing a replay.
I think we're actually going to have them play out the replay by the looks of things.
Oh, everyone loves a good demonstration on the field of what they just did.
And really, when you've got a team like Wildcats, it's kind of what you'd expect to see. They've got the skill to be able to do something twice. Now, from our perspective, based on where the line was, I think that looked pretty clean.
It was definitely close, but they don't have the advantage of replay. Wildcats made it cleanly scored the point anyway. A lovely little break throw and continuation on the break side from Ryan Sheridan.
And Lewis Goldby catches that score, giving him a bookends for that point. He's going to feel pretty chuffed about that one.
First and last touches of that possession for the Wildcats to widen the score even further to a 5-2. Now, as we said, we're looking at a race to 15, 90 minutes on our soft cap. What that means is we will take a halftime break once the first team scores 8 points. Now, that could still potentially be Brightside. They're down by 3. 6 points to take half. Their Wellington counterparts only need another 3 scores. Now, we've seen them put a number on the board. We've seen a number of breaks strung back to back. And I think that's one of the key things about the Wildcats is that a lot of these high-performance players have been in situations like this before. They've been to countless semis. They've been to countless finals. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. They've sort of been able to come together and put those things away. The pressure doesn't get to them in the same way that it would to newer teams, newer clubs, younger players.
Brightside right now going to be hungry for their highest finish in a Division I championship as a club, looking to bring this one back as soon as possible. Wildcats at the same time already coming into this game expecting a win, but will be looking forward to their next game, trying to get their younger legs onto the field, allowing their more veteran players a bit of rest. Now Brightside coming in to Adam Chung.
Leach stretching it into a deep cut, but it's a foot block by T-Top Smith.
An amazing foot block there.
Get that man a shoe shine. Nice inside break goes through to Sheridan to continue across to T-Top Smith.
T-Top Smith looking to show that he's dangerous on offense as well as defense. Lockie Robertson 1 meter outside the end zone. Ryan Sheridan doing a lot of work to stay open for him.
Aldrich for the score to take Wildcats 2 away from half.
Wildcats really showing how dangerous they can be if you give them a turnover. So that defensive line for the Wildcats has been out there for 4 points now, maybe 5, I think. Really good run for the Wildcats. Brightside's going to do a little bit of a reconvene here.
Yeah, so we're going to see a timeout called. Just again, a testament to the Wildcats line. We're seeing those same players over and over. The conditioning, the mental fortitude to be able to hold on to that sense of wakefulness, that sense of reactivity to the offense is just fantastic to see. So we'll be back after a short timeout for the exciting conclusion of the first half of this match. And we are back, folks. What a pleasure to be here at Auakaringa Park to bring you the very best Ultimate in New Zealand, Australia, and overseas. If you like what you see, head on over to patreon.com/ULTI.TV. Give us your spare change. We have a couple of score updates from adjacent fields as we hit the final bracket for the 2024 Open Championships. Misfits versus Hamatron Mahuika. Misfits only up by 1. The score is 3-2. Misfits have had a fantastic run throughout the tournament. I believe they've only had 1 loss throughout the tournament so far. Definitely leading. It's fantastic to see a lot of the youth players. They're finally hitting their stride. They're gelling together as a unit. Such a strong performance. A very good chance of seeing them in the finals. Fast Blueberries up a break over Wellington's Nexus. Now, we've seen Fast Blueberries playing off against Nexus on stream already, so it's a little bit of a repeat there as we determine those final seedings, who's going to make it to the finals. But just a fantastic performance by Blueberries to come up over Nexus at the moment. A huge pull from Robertson.
The defense is right there.
It is looking like a bit of a zony look from the Wildcats. Let's see if Brightside adapt quickly enough. They found a gap to O'Hara. Wildcats will be looking to close that gap for the next option.
Travel called by Whitlock, so Tony Clark's going to be resetting his position and continuing. And the call has been retracted. Some great communication and spirit on display by those teams there. That willingness to have that conversation. It's a self-officiated sport, so it's the players who take the responsibility for that. We've got Leach working with Chung. McKenzie on the far sideline.
Wildcats are switched into a match defense now. Let's see how Brightside adapts to that offensively.
It has resulted in enough confusion that Wildcats get the D.
Bit of a miscommunication there. McKenzie was cutting towards that near sideline. Maybe got a clue that it wasn't going to come through. Decided to commit to the deep cut. Haberfield heads up awareness, managing to generate that turn. We're going to see Penaya go to Whitlock, center field, marked by McKenzie. Goes wide to Robertson. Dempster in hot pursuit. Nothing developing in the end zone. We're not seeing a big cut. Goes high and Brightside.
And safely into the hands of Theo Moore.
There's no hesitation. He's definitely in this time. Just another day at the office. That's the little signal he's giving there. Wildcats to go to 7, up by 5 over Christchurch's Brightside.
On display already, we've really seen the depth of the Wildcats offense. They are not afraid to work it in using their handlers and a lot of short throws. Not afraid to send it deep and connect those long balls, and not afraid to shoot that disc across the field if you've stopped them on the near post.
One thing that has to be said, the Wildcats generating a lot of movement through their handlers. They're able to get nice, easy, open shots. Their offense is never really stagnant. It's helping them a lot in this game. Brightside have had a little bit more difficulty with that. Also, so far, the Wildcats have not had a turnover in this game, and if you don't turn the disc over, you will win.
Now, just to follow on from that, Nick, I think one of the things that maybe Brightside are a little bit overly conscious of the sheer depth of throws on the Wildcat side. They're really trying to patrol that deep space and shut down those really quick points. You've got Whitlock, you've got Haberfield, you've got Fitzpatrick. They can easily put the disc the full length of the field. Maybe Brightside respecting that a little bit too much and not really being as aggressive up front against those handlers as they could be. McFarlane.
To Leishman now in the middle of the field with the disc.
Leishman on the O-line. Brightside looking to switch things up. Manang can't get the upline cutaway, decides to recenter to McFarlane.
Wildcats out there with a young line once again, playing that switchy-matchy zone look.
Lawson to McFarlane, gets faked off. The zone putting a lot of pressure on. Manang can't get free. They're not really attacking the near sideline as much as they need to really test that zone. McFarlane puts a long shot up looking for Clark.
It looks like there is a call on the field, though.
It was a beautiful throw. A laser down the line to Tony Clark. But we have a discussion going on 2 passes previously.
Looks like a travel was called on that one. Well, it's a good thing Tony Clark did pick that one up. Otherwise, that would have been an automatic turnover. So we're going to see McFarlane retain possession of the disc. Players trying to reset to roughly where they were when the infringement was called. And the disc can get checked back in by Ryan Sheridan, and we're going to see play resume.
So Wildcats initially having come down in a zone defense, now looking to switch to a match defense, just causing a little bit of chaos in the Brightside offense.
Markwell has the disc now. Back to McFarlane, supported by McKenzie, and Manang as a wide swing option. Goes Leishman on an undercut, marked by Mance to Manang near sideline. We see Van Bergen in front, puts a low shot out one-handed by Tony Clark, puts it up for McKenzie.
A beautifully weighted huck from Tony Clark and a confident take out of the sky by Finn McKenzie.
Great work there by McKenzie to pull that one down, putting Brightside back on the board. Their first hold in a fair few points. Wildcats now need to just send out an offensive line to close it out and close the half.
Finn McKenzie here doing a great job recognizing that that disc is going to a confident thrower on his team, having that little stutter step to get separation in the downfield and making his job easier as a deep receiver. Excellent team awareness from Brightside there.
It was also excellent mental awareness. They had scored the point already. It got called back on a previous call. They didn't collapse from that. They were able to keep playing their game and put it in again. If they can do it twice, they can do it 3 times, they can keep doing it as many times as they want through the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Sometimes when you're down by a fair few points, you kind of sink everything you've got into just getting back on the board, getting a toehold back in the game. To have that called back and crush that momentum a little bit, lesser teams would start to crumble, but we haven't seen Brightside go that way. They've instead redoubled their efforts and still managed to work the desk and put away the score. So fantastic work by the boys from Christchurch.
Leishman now with the pull for Brightside.
Fielded comfortably by Jackson Joe. Goes to Joe Panaya, Mr. Consistency himself. Decides against the backhand huck from Haberfield. Goes back to Panaya, losing a couple yards in the process, working the far sideline. Whitlock a little bit too quick for his cleats. He's back on his feet though, finds Fitzpatrick on the near sideline, marked by Leishman.
Wildcats.
Ooh, it's a big play up here. Looking for Haberfield. Haberfield over the top of 2 defenders. Huge catch.
That is going to take us through to halftime, folks. Wildcats 8, Brightside 3 in this semi-match. The winner of this match we're going to see a little bit later on in our open final. Wildcats having taken first half. What a fantastic performance by the local lads. But my name is Blair Monroe.
I am Austin Clark.
And I'm Nick Panu.
And we will be back with you very soon.
Chili bin is not a water jug stand, it's actually a seat. There's actually not even anything inside of it. So we can just make sure it's not being used by
Welcome back, folks, to the second half of our streamed semi-final match in the open division of the 2024 New Zealand Ultimate Championships here at Awakairangi Park in Wellington. My name is Bleman Ryan. I'm joined by two fantastic co-commentators, Austin Clark and Nick Panu. We have Wildcats up by 5, having just taken half against Brightside from Christchurch on 3 points.
I do believe the Wildcats were receiving at the start of this game, which means they will come out and be pulling to Brightside here at the start of the second half.
But it's like, I mean, it's a comfortable enough lead for them, Austin, I think. Being that 5 points up, even if they were to give up an offensive hold here, it's not really going to be the end of the world from their perspective. Now, it might very well be what Brightside need to kind of gas them up and really make their mark on the second half of the game. But guys, what do you think about the game that we've seen so far? We've had a pretty exciting first half, in my opinion.
It's been, so far, this is running to the script that Wildcats would have wanted from the very beginning of the game. They haven't turned the disc over. They've just they put enough pressure on Brightside to get a few turnovers and score those points. And their whole vibe for this game will be to keep it at this energy level, just a comfortable, it's a nice practice run. We're going to win this game. Don't worry, Brightside, don't get excited. Brightside, on the other hand, want to lift that energy level. They play in a high-intensity game. They want it to be a fun, exciting game. They had done that in patches in the first half, but they'll be talking about it at halftime, and that's what they want to bring out in the second half.
And, I mean, Brightside, we've seen a little bit of excitement from them. We saw a great hammer to close out a point, looking for Edwards, I believe that was. He's a great receiver, and we're going to see him on the field at the moment with Morgan O'Hara, Tom Worden, Dominic Lowe, Tavish Dempster, Harrison Leach, and Joshua Chin. It's Riley Van Turnhout with the disc for the pull for Wildcats to kick us off in the second half. Well, it's not really kicking us off. The only kicking we've seen has been Tyler T-Top Smith's fantastic foot block towards the end of that first half. Looks like we're going to see a side stack initiating from the Brightside's offense. They're going to be creating a lot of room for themselves, or trying to.
Unfortunately, it's a zone look from the Wildcats, which means that side stack is not going to be very effective. Brightside adjusting quickly, using a few resets in order to get their offense adjusted to this new defensive look.
Looks like they've collapsed that zone defense to a bit of a match now.
We've seen that a few times from the Wildcats, throwing that initial zone look just to break up any set plays that Brightside might have off of their pull.
T-Top Smith's hunting for another foot block as Worden has to holster the backhand. Dempster to O'Hara, marked by Keddy. Far sideline has to come around to Tavish Dempster.
So far, the Wildcats defense is doing an excellent job of having Brightside doing a lot of passes without any move. And a huge D from Ryan Sheridan. Getting in front, getting horizontal, making sure that that pass was not completed.
The impact so significant that it's going to knock off the tape he's used to make his number as Van Turnhout puts a huge bladey shot up. And that's going to be bookends.
Ryan Sheridan coming up big for the Wildcats there, taking advantage of the slimmest of margins on the throw there. That was just a tiny bit too slow or too far behind the receiver for Brightside. Brightside recognizing that they get very slim margins in their battle here against the Wildcats.
And once again, consistent pressure there. Brightside were having difficulty moving it downfield. The Wildcats were doing some great switching, making sure any runners were picked up. All the movement was going horizontally when it was going, and Ryan Sheridan taking advantage of that to come up with a big play.
Fantastic work by the Wildcats to open up the second half. So the score is now 9-3. We're yet to see Brightside really make their mark on the second half of this game.
Wildcats looking to keep the intensity high. As an elite ultimate club, they know that they can't afford to let their mentality slip, even in these games that are starting to feel a bit more one-sided. It is important to them that they maintain the intensity on defense and the absolute precision on offense going into their next harder games. They are going to want to make sure that they keep their sights set on this game against Brightside.
I mean, and that's exactly it. I mean, Wildcats, we know that they've got a pretty important game coming up after this as well. I think from that perspective of a reigning champion, of being such a dominant team, there's a part of them that's already focusing on what the next game is going to be. And they have the ability to back that up. They have the ability to kind of compartmentalize in that way, whereas Brightside definitely focused on this game and this game alone. We'll see how that shakes out. Wildcats still up by 6. But they're probably going to want to put this one out as quick as they can to get a nice, good amount of rest and recovery and preparation for their final match, if that's the way this semi shakes out.
Brightside, however, never wants to give up a fight. We will see them put together some amazing offense before the end of this game. I am sure of it.
O'Hara just so good with his off-disc movement as well. But we see a crossfield hammer go to Clark.
Clark now with the disc.
Edwards pushing into a deep cut. Van Bergen in hot pursuit. It's not going to come. Decides to cut wide to Dempster. Up to Leach. Good grief, what a take.
Following the rungs of that ladder, climbing high to reach that disc. Adam Chung now looking for his downfield option. Safe hands of flow.
Got a touch on that one by the looks.
Ooh, a nice toe in by Edwards to keep that disc in bounds. Re-centers to low. And a pick has been called on the field.
So somewhere in the downfield space. A little bit of contact avoidance led to defense not being able to follow their offense, which is going to allow players to reset to where they think they reasonably would have been if the pick not occurred.
That being said, it did not affect where that disc landed, and nor were any of the players who could have had a play on that disc affected by that pick, so he will retain possession. That's a good clinical reset offense from Brightside. Finding the spaces in the Wildcats defense. Ooh. Great tight defense from Elliot Mance there.
Dempster with a great grab right on the doorstep. Edwards with a take. What a beautiful leap there to pull that one down for Brightside, bringing it back to a 5-point game. Fantastic effort there.
We are seeing Brightside have to grind a little bit harder on each of their points in order to punch these in. However, it does show great fortitude by them to get that through in that point. Really, really great composure on that offensive movement there.
Absolutely, but one of the perils of that increasing amount of grind and increasing amount of work is that the errors start to creep in, the fatigue starts to creep in. That last point, that disc came in quite high. It started to pick up. That front edge of it was lifting into the air, and that does make a harder reception for Edwards. And so even though they're working really, really hard, it's important to maintain that mental focus. Put the disc where you want it, not just in the general vicinity. Working as a team, trying to make each other's jobs easier is going to allow them to conserve energy towards the later stages of the match.
There we're seeing that amazing grab by Edwards there. Making that cut to the break side. The throw came to the break side. Having to go around the mark caused that throw to climb a little bit higher than either player would have liked, but proved no trouble for Edwards.
Going to see Clark with the disc for the pull for Brightside.
Rolling pull with a lot of hang time. Fielded by Jackson Joe.
Big fake from Whitlock opens up the near sideline for Fitzpatrick Cockram. Quick recenter to Hogg.
confident throws to wide open players. This is what Wildcats like. Each player working exceptionally hard at 100%, and the throw goes to Fitzpatrick. Cockram in the end zone. Another clinical offensive showing from Wildcats.
So Wildcats going to split into double digits for the first time in the match. The score is now 10-4. A large margin for the Wellington lads. A really good cushion for them to be in, but as we've seen throughout the last couple of weeks at our Division II championships, a 4 or 6 point lead can be a dangerous place to be if you let the gas up. Now, it's probably not likely that Wildcats are going to do that. I mean, like I always say, train like you've never won, play like you've never lost. Wellington Wildcats have a lot of experience in these pressure situations. They have a lot of experience being in the lead, but also not letting them rest on their laurels.
Wildcats, with their defensive line out there again, they've seen a lot of success running that sort of transition defense from a zone to a match just after a few throws. Brightside definitely aware of that now. They'll be expecting it. Nonetheless, whether you're expecting it or not, it can be a difficult look to adapt to as an offense.
Now, Nick, you've got an extensive coaching career and playing career as well. What are some of the biggest benefits of doing that transition, I guess a reverse transition zone when you're looking to isolate those matchups?
Well, the first thing you want to do is take the other team out of the offensive look. What are they trying to do at the start of the point? Let's not let that happen. Make them go into the plan B. It's always about plan B because
a huge speedy throw from O'Hara that just barely outpaces Tom Warden sprinting through the end zone. Just a little bit more touch on that disc and we would have seen an amazing play from Warden.
Would have been a great connection. I mean, that's twice now that we've seen that happen from Brightside. We've seen those long drives overthrow the receivers on the sideline. So
but
they
the
really need
receiver
to dial those in.
Absolutely, and the receiver did get great separation there, and the lane was open. So it's just a little bit of an execution that would have made that just a spectacular play. Firing back the other way, Ryan Sheridan sends one the length of the field for Robertson, who's bodied out by Warden.
Great
No foul
defensive
call.
play there.
Absolutely, that's really good defensive work.
You could see Robertson was tossing up whether or not to call contact on that. You'll see his arms go crossed or just outside of frame. Decides against making a call there. Probably recognizing that he'd initiated as much as Tom Worden had. Oh, O'Hara with a great layout bid to try and keep that alive. It's not going to work. It's going to be Sheridan in the red zone. T-Tov Smith coming around to Mance.
Sheridan around to Dan Aldridge for the score. And Wildcats giving up their first turnover of the game there, but able to get the disc back again and put it in for the score. That's still a positive for Brightside. They know that the Wildcats are not infallible.
And oftentimes that can be all you need, just some hard evidence of the fact that you are able to compete at the same level as your opponents. One of the things that you typically see as well, I mean, teams, when there appears to be a large discrepancy in capability, and I'm not saying that there is here, teams will often play to the level of their opponents a little bit. So that's where you see some ridiculous upsets tending to happen. You'll see a team that's come in to a tournament, first seed, undefeated, trading with a team who came in seeded much, much lower, who hasn't been performing as well. I think Brightside really are starting to play up and are recognizing now that the Wildcats are capable of making mistakes, that we do have players that can compete with them on a physical level, on an athletic level, on a Frisbee IQ level. It might be a huge moment in this match for them.
Absolutely, and that look down the lane that resulted in that Brightside turnover on that point, there was a real sniff there, and Brightside will recognize that they're able to get that separation, and they'll be able to create their opportunities going through the rest of this game. Likewise, they put up a great defensive effort on that look from the Wildcats and got their first turnover.
McFarlane, Manang, Leishman, as we see. Ty Lawson making that great initiation cut. We've got two receivers cutting deep, hard.
Leishman sending it the length of the field.
Oh, big bid. Tony Clark getting a hand to it, but not able to bring it in on the first or second effort. The Wildcats will run away back on offense the other way.
Defense scrambling to shut down the retort. T-Tov Smith to Sean Gardner, far sideline, working with Ketty.
Finds a great inside shot there to keep the disc on the break side of the field. Gardner open again.
Sheridan gets a bite out of Leishman to find T-Tov Smith on an undercut towards the midfield, goes back around, putting a shot up.
High.
Oh, Tony Clark with a huge play.
Manages to get the sky ball. This time it's McFarlane through to Manang.
Brightside now finding a little bit of defensive pressure, able to get the disc back in their hands, and another big one goes up to Tony Clark. Can he get it this time?
Giving it a bit more height.
Oh, a great defensive play once again. Taking the position, not letting Tony Clark get in a jump on it as he wanted to.
Theo Moore finding a really smart defensive position there over a player with extensive hops. Plays with a lot of altitude, Tony Clark. And that's 2 times in the end zone for him this point. If I were the Wildcats, I wouldn't give him a third opportunity.
No, the game has opened up now, though. It's become a little bit more end-to-end. Exactly how the crowd wants to see it. But again, maybe not how Wildcats are hoping to play it out.
We're going to see Wildcats. We've got Lewis Goldby initiating on a cut, losing Markwick, pushing towards the towards the far end zone. T-Tov Smith puts it up, looking for Goldby. Lawson's underneath it, but he's not going to be the one.
Oh,
Goldby.
massive bird once
Goldby
again.
At full tilt, leaving his feet, just not able to reel that one in as it's drifting out the back of the end zone.
Me, oh my, this has been one humdinger of a point.
Now this is the interesting thing. I mean, Nick, you mentioned earlier, like, Wildcats not infallible. Brightside had their first turnover. I think they've had 3 more since then. So whatever has happened in the Wildcats, they really need to put a rein on it. Otherwise, it's gonna start to give Brightside opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Not only that, as you also alluded to earlier, they'll be looking forward to the next game, whatever game it is. They don't want to be going into that with this mentality of playing away from the normal offense.
Oh, a laser beam down the field, but Sean Gardner's got his head up, and he eats that one up.
DJ Flex himself with the intercept, immediately pushing that one into a deep cut. Jadeja with the around. McKenzie with a huge bid, but it's going to draw contact. Ketty's going to call foul.
Now the two players are discussing what they believe happened there. It is a massive bid from McKenzie.
Ketty feeling that disc was maybe secure in his hands before Finn McKenzie got his hand to it.
So seeking some perspective from players external to the contact itself. Always a good thing, really, when you think about it. Sometimes the adrenaline can get fired up, especially when you've had a long point with a number of turnovers. You're feeling a little tired. You're feeling a little irritable as the fatigue starts to set in. It can be hard to remain as objective as is required to maintain the spirit of the game. So that ability to seek outside perspective shows a remarkable show of spirit, which is fantastic. Looks like that call's going to be retracted. We're going to see the turnover stand. We're going to see Finn McKenzie with the disc to secure the block.
That's great energy out of Finn McKenzie. Good hunger to want that defensive play and to make it happen.
Leishman with the disc marked by Jadeja. Goes wide to McFarlane instead. Quick recentering, some aggressive defense by the Wildcats, trying to stop the momentum, but he slips one through to Manang.
Brightside here not having had as much success with their deep looks, might be looking to work that disc a little bit more methodically up the field.
Low shot through to Markwell with a big hammer across the top.
Finds Clark in the end zone, wide open on the break side. Great work from Brightside.
You love to see it.
You do.
I mean, there are really two safe occasions to throw hammers. It's when you're up by 6 and when you're down by 6. So great work by Markwell to find that crossfield shot to Clark to put it back in the game. The score is now 11-5, still in favor of the local lads in Lilac, the Wellington Wildcats.
We're just going running through the highlights from that point, which are many of the highlights from this game. Huge bids on both ends. Tony Clark involved in most of them.
Absolutely. Great box out there by Theo Moore, but I would say that looks like Tony Clark's point. We see a timeout has been called. Unsure which side called it, but there's probably a lot of reflection on both sides. Brightside trying to figure out what they need to do on defense to disrupt this impressive Wildcat offense. Wildcats maybe needing to stop thinking so far ahead into the future and really just focus on each point one at a time. That point in particular was a bit of a low light for them just in terms of the number of turnovers. From what was objectively a perfect first half from them, offensively, there were no turnovers in that first half from Wildcats. Starting to creep in now, so they're going to try and put a dial back on those and finish the game the way they started it.
And I believe the Wildcats called that timeout, probably to discuss that exact thing.
Yeah, when you see that, you just notice that there's a difference in the way that point played out for your team. Just taking a moment, resetting, returning to that clinical offense. The Wildcats offensive line going out there now. They haven't been out in a while. You can see them warming up their throws again as the defensive line for the Wildcats has been doing most of the legwork.
And we have just a few score updates for you from around the wider Awakairangi Park. In our open division, Groot versus Dogma in our other semi-final, 11-3 to the side from Auckland, which is a fantastic performance from them. Wildcats Groot is a matchup we've seen quite often in the finals of our open division, but both of those games are still being played. In our women's division, we have Misfits currently on a bit of a train running down Hamilton, up by 5 points. The score is 9-5. Some really great work by those ladies. And Fast Blueberries 10-6 up over Nexus. So a little bit of a repeat of yesterday's game, which is just fantastic to see. Particularly as Blueberries as a club have been long looking to have a final match where they come out on top as the best team in New Zealand Women's Ultimate.
And here on field one, we see Wildcats stuck a little bit into their own end zone, but able to work it out now to Andy Fitzpatrick.
Works back around to Jackson Joe. Finds Whitlock with a very uncharacteristic bobble.
Just maybe looking downfield for that big huck 1 second before that disc arrived and seeing it slip through his fingers.
Even gods may fall here at Awakairangi Park. And it's one of those things. You can't throw a disc until you've caught it. Leishman with a great take there to find Noah Hayes near sideline, marked by Tyler Hogg.
Leishman showing a lot of dynamicism with the disc here, moving around, getting his mark on their back heels. That's really opening up his throws. Now Finn McKenzie climbs the ladder to reel in a throw from Bunang. Great around break to get around the huge mark of Nick Whitlock.
Hayes can't slip it through as we see McKenzie push towards the near sideline. A turfed shot by Leishman comes in just a little too low.
That inside-out break is a very dangerous threat, but it is a difficult throw, especially when your mark is sending a low hand out there that you have to get around or underneath. Wildcats now back on offense with their offensive line.
Joe driving through Taylor to Penaya to Haberfield right on the doorstep, puts an around shot up.
Taylor looking to toe that one in. Was he able to?
Looks like it's been called out. Oh, it's a very close call. Good footwork there.
And I think both players immediately recognized that was out. Tony Clark bringing the disc in for Brightside for another opportunity for this Brightside D-line to get a break.
Mackenzie overthrowing Leishman, tries to go around, keeping it wide, keeping it safe, recognizing the threat that is a defensive Fitzpatrick Cockram, but just miscalibrates that one. It's going to give Nick Whitlock, the big bomber, an opportunity to just snip one straight through for a Wildcats score.
Very hard to defend the long arms of Nick Whitlock when you're 30 centimetres from the end zone.
And Andy Fitzpatrick, one of the quickest cutters in the game at the moment. Really tough to mark him there at the front of the end zone. Probably needed a little bit of help from one of the other Brightside players to make sure that that one wasn't an easy one to punch in for the Wildcats.
I mean, that's the peril, right? Like Manang there in probably the best position to help mark the front of the end zone. But in doing so, he would have given up Jackson Joe trying to target that back far corner. And with Whitlock's arsenal, he would have been able to put a disc up around. So it almost felt a little bit like a lose-lose situation there. Teams doing the best they can. But as we always say, defense can't take away everything.
It is an offense-focused game. A good offense will always beat a good defense, no matter how good the defense is. The advantages go to the offense deliberately to make the sport more enjoyable, more watchable. We want to see points scored. We want to see big plays.
And we have been seeing big plays today. Some real highlight moments from Brightside, but an absolute masterclass here for free for you on how to play offense from the reigning champions, the Wellington Wildcats. Now, while the masterclass may be free, we still benefit from a little bit of financial support. If you like what you see, head on over to patreon.com/ULTI.TV. Give us your spare change and help us bring you the very best coverage in Ultimate here in New Zealand, Australia, and even in Europe, of all places. I know, Europe.
Australians invading Europe once again. Lovely hanging pull there from Tyler Tito Smith.
Fielded by Dempster, who's marked by Darren Leishman.
O'Hara has the disc now, goes around Keddy, finds Chung, far sideline, marked by Sheridan, can't put up the backhand. Leash with the shimmy shake, losing a few yards, but been getting a good position on the field, working with Dominic Lowe.
Oh,
Dan Aldridge with the run through D there.
Clean block there by Aldridge. As Ryan Sheridan's tape is starting to fall off from 11 to 0-0. It's T-Top Smith center field, signaling a through shot.
Titov, Smith, and Ryan Sheridan always on the same page. And we have just seen a truly unhinged throw from Ryan Sheridan.
That was possibly the most Division II throw I've ever seen at a Division I semi.
Word. He apologized as he was throwing it.
But looking at his face, he's quite pleased that he threw it in the first place.
He accidentally threw it the right way. He was not aiming at that person. There was another open receiver further out wide. And he won't mind me saying this. That was bad.
That truly was the Monday of Scubas.
Hey, whatever works, works.
And Darren Leishman enters the score sheet.
Darren Leishman, 16 years old?
16 years old and playing against his brother, Stephen Leishman, on the other, on the bright side.
Stephen Leishman, Finn McKenzie, and Tony Clark have all played for the Wildcats previously. Tony Clark with the 2022 World Club campaign. So they are quite familiar with those players and definitely would have points to prove, so they don't get the ribbing after the game that they don't deserve.
And so Wildcats going to 13 now. A fantastic second half from them. They've gone 5 points to Brightside's 2 in this half. So they've widened the lead. They're 2 points away from a victory. This race to 15 as we enter the 67th minute of our 90-minute soft cap. If Wildcats are able to maintain this momentum, we won't hit that 90th minute. Brightside, a little bit on the back foot, but still definitely capable. They can gas things up. They can fire things up. They've had some really long shots. They've got those speedy receivers. They just need to make a couple of tweaks, a couple of calibration adjustments to start dialing those in and being able to make connections on those more daring options.
Robertson now with the pull.
Arguably one of the best pullers in New Zealand. Finds low to Dempster. Leach getting the disc and keeping the stall count low, but not gaining a lot of yardage in the process.
Wildcats in a match defensive look, leaving a few players open underneath. Maybe he's trying to stop those deeper looks.
They're wanting Brightside to take a lot of passes to score. See if they can manage to grind and grind and grind.
The big shot goes up to Edwards. Tito Smith closing the gap with immense speed. Snatches that one out of the air, not giving Edwards even a chance to make a play on the disc.
Oh, stolen.
The closing speed from Tito Smith there was incredible. He's been putting in some work at the gym and it's paying off.
Good grief.
As you can see from the size of the lad.
Robertson bringing in the disc for the Wildcats.
We
Sends
see
it to T-Top Smith.
See the big point, hoping for something to develop in the downfield space.
Downfield momentum on the upline cut. Sends it deep to 2 Wildcats players and 2 Brightside players.
And Jack Keddy comes down with the disc just outside the end zone. Looking around for an option. Oh, great cut by Theo Moore. A little easy jump in. Sorry, Tyler Tito Smith it was. Getting the bookends on that.
I mean, the speed. Last I saw him, he was at the right-hand end zone, and then the next time I saw him, he was at the left-hand end zone. I don't know if he's running or just teleporting, but either way, he is bringing Wildcats 1 point away from a victory, securing a spot in the Opens final at the 2024 Division 1 Ultimate Championships here at Awakarangi Park in Wellington.
Now, I know the commentator's jinx is a thing. A couple of years ago, Brightside were playing in an important game against Hamatron Tafuri Matia. They were losing 12-4 and went on to win the game 13-12. Now, I'm not saying that will happen in this game, but they've done it before.
You're saying there's a chance.
The game's not over until it's over, really. And in the same way that a disc is always catchable until it touches the ground, the game is not over until the last point is scored. I mean, Nicholas Whitlock probably still remembers from his time at AUC Flood. There was in the mixed season at the Tamaki Throwdown, it was a similar thing. I think it was 11-4 to Hamatron Prime, and they managed to drop that lead as well. So, I mean, who knows? It could just be related to playing against teams from Hamilton. But, and I'm probably not going to be allowed to return home after saying that, to be absolutely honest with you boys, but we're going to see a Wildcats defensive line come out now, hoping to close out the game. They're just 1 turn and conversion away from a spot in the final match.
This final, hopefully for the Wildcats, their final defensive line is filled with veterans. They are clearly looking to close this game out. Brightside now, deep in their own end zone, going to have to battle the length of the field to get through this Wildcats defense.
Worden goes to Dempster. We're hearing calls of Callahan from the Wildcats sideline, hoping for an intercept that leads to a score here as they're pushed deeper and deeper into the defensive end zone. Brightside with big fakes against the zone mark. O'Hara has the disc. He's calling. We see Panaya backing off just a little bit. Dempster managing to chip through. Goes over the top, finds O'Hara. They've worked their way out of the end zone, but they're not out of danger.
Excellent work from Dempster and O'Hara to get out of their own end zone. A few really tight throws in there. Dempster now gets a big swing across the field, opening things up for Leach.
Huge block by Tyler Tito Smith again.
Smith again.
Absolute menace on this defensive line.
But that's exactly what the Wildcats were hoping for. They were hoping for a shot across the bows and an opportunity to intercept. We're going to see Panaya pick up the disc and initiate what could be the last point of the game.
Once again, it's Andy Fitzpatrick. Cockrum given the shakes in the end zone, getting himself open for an easy little dish from Joe Panaya.
I mean, he's an absolute menace. He's a real threat in the end zone, so good in isolation, so quick off the mark. And he's going to be one of the key assets that the Wildcats are going to need to use if they hope to walk away with another championship. We will see them again a little bit later on in the final match. We've got a couple of updates. Groot will be their opponents, having defeated Dogma 15-4 in our other open semi-final. Misfits up by 6 against Hamatron Mahuika. Fast Blueberries 13-6 over Nexus. Now, that looks to me like we might see a Hamatron Mahuika and Nexus third, fourth playoff after this. But as we've said a couple times during this match, the game is not over until that last point is scored. But until that last point is scored, my name is Blair Monroe.
I am Austin Clark.
No, I'm Nick Panu.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again very soon.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
ULTI.TV